doctors. These consequences are not very well understood because these medications are experimental, but we can find some studies that will tell us about it. This reported by the National Pulse, a paper called Growing Pains, The Problems of Puberty Suppression in Treating Gender Dysphoria, was written by a team of 3 experts: Dr. Paul W. Hurrers, a professor at Washington University School of Medicine, Dr. Lawrence S. Mayer, a scholar in residence at the Johns Hopkins School of Medicine, and a professor at Arizona State University, Dr. Paul R. McHugh, University Distinguished Service Professor of Psychiatry at the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine. So people that I, as a layman, I'm looking at saying, well, they seem credentialed, they seem to know what they're talking about. They've done this, it's a meta-study as well. The study examines 50 peer-reviewed studies on gender dysphoria in children and considers emerging treatments for the condition, including hormonal treatments such as puberty blocking, which is using hormones to suppress biological puberty, and surgical intervention. So the previous doctor's complaint, Dr. Harrop, his complaint is, well, there might be a problem. There might be suicides. These kids who are having gender dysphoria, there are a few hundred maybe that Tavistock is treating, have got a real state of distress and anxiety. That's terrible. That's bad. Obviously, we don't want kids in distress and anxiety, and there's nothing that can be done to help them. Well, there seems to be only one tool in the box of the transgender activists to deal with gender dysphoria, and that is transitioning. And so I don't think we're allowed to make any recommendations about maybe other aspects that can be looked into or something like this, because that's politically incorrect, and you will get a large activist lobby coming down on your head. And I say we, I mean like people who are interested in the subject, doctors, who want to. You get other an aggressive lobby attacking you and defaming you. But anyway, in this study, they say that potential adverse effects include disfiguring acne, high blood pressure, weight gain, abnormal glucose tolerance, breast cancer, liver disease, thrombosis, and cardiovascular disease. And finally, as Dr. Ryan Anderson notes, all of the children who persist in their transgender identity and take puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones will be infertile. So these are major life-changing events. And there are other problems with like bone development and stuff like this. But again, this is experimental. These are preliminary findings, but they seem to be really quite consequential. And back in March 2019, Tavistock was accused of covering up these negative side effects by an Oxford University professor. Dr. Michael Biggs, an associate professor at Oxford's Department of Sociology, claims that the Gender Identity Development Service at Tavistock has been giving puberty-blocking hormones to children without robust evidence as to the long-term effects. Declaring the trial a success, the clinic continued to treat over 1,000 children with hormones, but Dr. Biggs' research suggests that after a year of treatment, a significant increase was found in patients who had been born female self-reporting to the staff that they deliberately tried to hurt or kill themselves. The patients also reported a significant increase in behavioral and emotional problems and a significant decrease in physical well-being in children born female. According to his research, there was no positive impact on the experience of gender dysphoria, the diagnosis given to those who are described as feeling intensely uncomfortable with their biological sex. Dr. Biggs said, "Puberty blockers are exacerbating gender dysphoria, yet the study has been used to justify rolling out this drug regime to several hundred children under the age of 16. A Freedom of Information request to the NHS Health Research Authority showed that the study's own research protocol stated, it is not clear what the long-term effects of early suppression may be on bone development, height, sex organ development, body shape, and the reversibility of the treatment if stopped during pubertal development." In an interview with The Guardian in 2015, Dr. Carmichael of the Tavistock Centre said, "Nothing is completely reversible." This has been lobbied by a charity called Mermaids. Before 2010, puberty blockers were only prescribed to over 16s, but Biggs claims that the clinic's caution was opposed by Mermaids, the charity that identifies people as trans and refers them to the Gender Identity Research and Development Clinic, or the an Education Society, sorry, whose purpose is to, quote, improve the lives of trans and gender non-conforming people. So let's assume that all of these activist organisations on the left who are promoting puberty blocking for transgender people are acting in good faith, and they are not just zealots who have belief that they want to try and impose on reality and make reality change to fit their mold, let's assume they're acting in good faith. If Dr. Biggs is right in his studies and his research, that there is no increased positive impact on the experience of gender dysphoria because of puberty blockers, which are again experimental drugs, and in fact it seems to exacerbate the problems of gender dysphoria, and it has this whole host of various other medical conditions and infertility that end up with this. How on earth could it be that this could be allowed? And so essentially we have to hope that the Court of Appeals considers all of this information and denies the Tavistock Centre's appeal. But the question is, why is the Tavistock Centre not considering these facts? Because it appears that these are facts that we have established. Why are they not like, well, actually, we actually, we want to help. We don't just want to apply a process that we have agreed on, and if the process isn't working, as Dr. Biggs is suggesting, then why don't they revise it or scrap it or do something else?
What do I do with a sign I can't understand from a power?
I mean, what's happening with Tavistock is they're not able to take new...
Let's start by looking for more of them. The tarot describes
patients
a
on.
road.
Yeah, no, they can take new patients, just not children.
Just not
I mean, and it's not even that they can't take children. What it is, they can't prescribe puberty-blocking hormones to.
What I find.
Okay, so they can't give them
Look for
untested
more
drugs,
images.
which
Is a start.
okay. Because I'm wondering why the government haven't
Think
said
about
anything
what
about
you
this.
see.
Because why
You
would
ask
they?
me?
Like,
They've been
would you
sent to
want
help
to get
find the
involved with
truth.
the angry trans lobby on Twitter?
Because that's the thing. I remembered. I didn't get this up beforehand.
A difficult time
so I
is
wanted to mention it
coming,
here.
and you'll have to choose
There was
which
actually a
road to
debate
take.
about allowing self-identification to become the standard for
understand.
becoming trans
Mhm.
in the
I
NHS.
know.
And
Come on
just
back
figured out
when
it's
you
Liz
found
Truss, the lady
I'll
we spoke
help you
about before,
decipher what you
who came out and said, no, I'm not doing that. And they're keeping
Good
it
for
in
her.
so you have to get a medical diagnosis rather than self-ID.
Good for her.
So they seem to understand that there's a problem here and that the trans lobby are not legitimate people. They're just activists. Like
They seem to
they're
be
not
activists.
representing the trans people in this country at all.
Well, it's not about them representing the trans people. They're not representing the science as
No.
far as these scientists see it and have researched it. And they're being accused of covering up the fact that they're not representing the science, presumably in favour of their ideological agenda, which is to promote transgenderism and the